In this video, we're going to take a little bit of time out to look at the site settings of Yetti. Now this video may be a little bit longer than the others you may have watched, because there's a lot to get through, but bear with us, because by the time you're finished you'll be a settings master, and you'll be comfortable with configuring your Yetti site exactly how you want it. Some settings are a little bit more obvious than others, however, we're going to go through every single one of them step by step. Firstly, general settings. Now the site name is probably the most obvious of the settings, however there are a number of different places it can be used, so it's worth taking a minute to assess your site name and just see if it's doing what you want it to do. So before we actually change it, let's take a look at one of the cases where the site name is used. If I jump back into Woven and Tufted, you can see that at the top here I've got a tab heading, and you can see the site name is here, and again when I roll over it, it says Home Demo Site. If I jump into the shop, you can see the page name now changes to Shop Demo Site. So I think we can probably guess that the demo site is the page name. So let's take a look at changing this now. If I change it to Woven and Tufted and click the green button to save the changes, jump back into the website and refresh it, you can see that now the site name has changed to Woven and Tufted. I'm still on the shop page, however I can jump back into Home and the page name has stayed as Woven and Tufted. Company details are where you can set the name and address as well as VAT numbers and your registration numbers for your company. If you do have a logo and it's uploaded to Yetti, you can put the full URL into this box here to provide an easy link to that graphic. Outgoing email settings are worth just taking a second to get right. They're always used when you are sending an email to someone else. The outgoing email name is what will appear in the receiver's email clients. So at the minute, if I received an email as a client from Woven and Tufted, the email would appear to be received from Demo Site, and the email address would be no-reply@yetti.co.uk. So I'm going to change this to Woven and Tufted, and I'm also going to change this to no-reply@wovenandtufted.co.uk. Now just as an aside, if you are an individual and you have a website with a name, for instance, if I was Alex Ryans and my company was called Alex Ryans Holding, I would probably want to set my outgoing email name to Alex Ryans rather than Alex Ryans Holding. Now the reason for this is that all email clients work in different ways, and some are a little bit more strict than others, and if an email client detects that an email has come from a company, it might not always trust that company, and it might automatically shift your email into the email client's spam folder. Now there's not much you can do to get around this, however, one way of at least helping an email client to decide whether it should put your email in a user's spam folder or in their inbox, which is generally where you want it to go, is to have an actual person's name in the outgoing email name. This helps to personalize your email, and it also makes it a little less generic. So if an email client is looking through emails and it thinks this email has come from a person, it's more likely to send it into the inbox rather than moving it to the spam folder. It's a consideration that you have to take into account, although, as I say, there's not always enough you can do to ensure 100% that an email client is going to put your email into a user's inbox. Comment settings then allow unregistered comments on your website. And what this means is you may have two different classes of user on your website. You might have users that have accounts and that can log in, or you might have users that don't have accounts and who can't log in. Now, there are two ways of getting around comments. You can restrict comments to people who have accounts and who are logged in, so only people who are logged into your website will be able to comment, or you can extend the comment functionality to all users regardless of whether they have accounts and whether they're logged in. The comment sections panel allows you to turn on or off that functionality. By default, unregistered comments is unticked, so people who aren't registered with your site and who aren't logged in won't be able to comment on any blog articles, for instance. Ticking this box will allow unregistered comments, meaning anyone, regardless of their status on your website, will be able to comment. Now, there are a couple of pros and cons to this. Obviously, if a user has registered and you've approved their registration, then that generally would suggest that you trust them and that you are allowing them access to your website at a certain level that maybe everyone, Joe Blogs off the street, wouldn't have. Maybe a members area or a VIP section or just a general account section, for instance. If you only want those trusted people to comment on your website, for instance, you might believe that they are less likely to spam your website via the comments or put obscene or irrelevant information in comment boxes, then leave this box unticked. If you want to allow everyone to comment on your website, then tick this to allow all those unregistered comments. By default, Yetti does not allow any comments on your website without them being approved by yourself. Obviously, this goes some way to alleviating the problem of obscene or irrelevant or spam comments. And it's something to mention that there is that extra level of security there if you want to use it. Access settings then holds your IP whitelist. Now, this may seem a little bit technical, but don't worry, I'll explain it in full. If you have a scenario whereby you have an internal tool, in this case a website, that you only want one section of your company to access, for instance, you only want a web team to be able to access a website, then you can have your network manager or someone who's in charge of your network to put the IP addresses of everyone on that team into the IP whitelist, which would mean that only that team would have access to your website. It basically gives you a little bit more security over who can and who can't access your website, and there are special considerations that you might want to put in place when creating your website to allow that access to be restricted to only a set group of people. Generally, depending on the circumstance, you will never need to touch the IP whitelist. However, depending on the nature of the website, you might need to interact with this section to restrict who can and who can't access your website. Now, as the help documentation notes, you can put IP addresses in different formats. You can have one IP, you can have a wildcard IP, an IP range, an IP with a subnet mask, or an IP with CIDR. Don't worry if you're unfamiliar with any of these terms. Your network manager or the person or the people who take care of your network will understand what this means, and if it's necessary for your website to be restricted, you can direct them here and they'll be able to set it up as you wish. Taking a look at promotions and special offers then, you can set your e-commerce store to allow promotions and special offers on your website. There's two types of promotion. One's a catalogue promotion, which will give a discount based on criteria. For instance, if I buy a pen, I may get a special offer on rulers and rubbers. Or you can apply an order discount, which will apply to an order in full rather than be triggered when someone buys a specific item. Let's take a look at catalogue promotion first. Both types of promotion allow you to add a name, a description, and a discount code. A promotion name is required, however description and discount code are optional. We recommend that you do describe your promotion, however, because if you have a list of 10, 20, 30, even 100 promotions without a description, it may get a little difficult for you to be able to see at a glance what promotion does what. So we recommend that you fill out a description. A discount code, again, is optional, and if you leave the discount code field blank, the promotion will be automatically triggered depending on the selected criteria that we're going to take a look at in a moment. If you have a discount code, you can give that discount code to customers to apply when they get to the basket, and the discount will only be applied if the code has been entered. So there are a number of different options here when taking into account the creation of your discount. However, they do follow pretty much a logical path. You can set a condition on the discount, so the discount will only apply when a customer purchases 1, 10, 5, any number of either any product, products of a specific type, products in a specific category, or just on one particular product. And you can set that however you want, depending on the promotion that you want to apply. For instance, I could set here, whenever a customer buys a Victoria carpet, and whenever they buy 5 Victoria carpets, this promotion will be applied. So you can then select what type of discount you want the order to apply. For instance, you might want a 10% discount, or you might want a fixed discount of £50. So depending on whether you want a percentage discount or whether you want a fixed price discount, you can set that here accordingly. And then finally, if you want the discount or the promotion to apply to all products, you can set that here, or you can just have it to apply to products of a certain type or products in a certain category, pretty much as you set here. Finally, you can set the options. You can set the start and finish date of the promotion. You can set who the promotion applies to. For instance, you could have a number of different user groups set up, for instance, members and non-members, and you might want to only give a promotion to the members group, which you can do so here. So only members who meet the criteria and who fall into the group you've selected will be eligible for the promotion. You can also set when a customer will be eligible for the promotion. For instance, you can set that the promotion will always be available, or whether you only want the promotion to be available on their initial purchase, their first purchase on the website, or after the first purchase. So if you want to give users a discount of 10% on all subsequent orders, you would just select the last option. If you want to give them a discount of 10% on their first purchase, you would select the second option. And finally, you can set the exclusivity. Now imagine the scenario. You have 5 different promotions, all of varying amounts. You may have a promotion for 10% off, 20% off, 50% off, or 75% off. Now you don't want to give the user the option to stack all these discounts up. You don't want them to be able to apply a 10% discount, a 30% discount, and a 50% discount, because that would be 90% off their entire order. Instead, you might want the order to only be available to apply the highest amount of discount available. In this case, you would set exclusive, which would mean that the promotion you've set up here will override any other promotion set. If you set it not exclusive, then all promotions, including this one, will be applied to a user's order. Taking another look at the promotions then, let's dive into order promotions. As you can see, the view is exactly the same, and there's no other options to change here, aside from the discount details. Now bear in mind, to reiterate, that order promotions apply to an entire order. So rather than being attached to a specific product, or a specific category, or a specific product type, order promotions apply to an overall order. Discount details, again, you can set a percentage discount or a fixed discount, and you can also set what you want the discount to apply to, the subtotal, the shipping cost, or the order total. And finally, you can set criteria for when you want the discount to apply. For instance, if the quantity of items in the order is greater than 1, if the total weight of the order is greater than a certain amount, or if the subtitle is greater than, equal to, or less than a certain amount. Rather than creating a promotion that runs across the entire website, you might want to set a certain amount of vouchers and give them to loyal customers, members, or new customers to entice them to purchase something from your shop. Rather than doing that in promotions and special offers, you could just create a voucher. So let's take a look at that now. There is a default value given. So in this case, it's E49N5X1H. However, you can set that to be absolutely anything you want. So if I wanted woven and tufted new cust. So this code may only be for new customers. You can set the price that you want the voucher to discount. So for instance, I would like to give new customers £50 off their first order. I can set when the voucher will expire, and I can also set whether it's active or not. So a voucher will not be active and won't be available for use unless it's ticked as active. Shipping packages then, and shipping setup, is handled here. You may want to have different packages depending on different weights of orders. For instance, you might have a small package, a medium package, and a large package. These different packages can be then used to have different shipping, different couriers, or different VAT amounts depending on how you want it to work. And this is where you'd set up those packages. So you could set up a small package, and the maximum weight of that small package may be 10 kilograms. You can then set up a medium package, and the maximum weight of that may be 50, and then anything above 50 kilograms would be a large package, and the maximum weight of that may be 100 or 1,000. So anything above 50 or 10. Now, if you've already checked out the video on adding products, you'll notice or you'll remember that we gave a product a weight. So these weights apply to what's in the packages. If I have 5 items in my basket and each item weighs 10 kilograms, then the small package would be no good because the total weight of my package would be 30. So my package would be use the medium setting. Yetti automatically calculates the weight of your basket depending on the weight of the products that are in it and selects the package accordingly. You can also manage couriers. Now, different countries have different couriers, and you may want to prefer one courier over the other, so you can set which couriers you want to use to ship your products here. So there are a number of different options when you're creating a courier. Obviously, you want the courier name and their website, and if the courier gives the facility to track a package, you can enter their tracking URL here. Note though that if you're entering a tracking URL, you only need to enter the base URL up to the point the code is provided, because Yetti will automatically add the code at the end. So for instance, if a tracking URL is ups.com/track/123456, what you would enter in here is ups.com/track. And then the code of the package will be added by Yetti automatically. Yetti has great support for courier regions. So for instance, you can set which continent a courier would apply to. So maybe you wanted all of North America to have the courier you've selected or the courier you've created. Or maybe you want only a certain country within a continent to have a courier. So maybe I would like the British Virgin Islands in North America to have the courier that I'm now setting up. So the control here can be as finely tuned or it can be as general as you'd like. And finally, package prices. Remember when we set up those packages in the previous step? Well, now this is where it comes into effect, because Yetti knows that you have 3 different packages on your website, and those packages may have different shipping prices. So it picks up on those packages that we've just set up, and it allows you to have separate prices per package. Looking at VAT management then, obviously different countries have different rates of VAT. You can see here there's an example VAT band set up for UK standard VAT at 15%, and that's the default VAT band. You can create a new VAT band then by giving it any name, test VAT band, and I want to give this a VAT rate of 20%. Now I still want my default to be 15%, which is UK standard, so I'm not going to mark it as default. However, I could do if I wanted to overwrite whatever was already in the default VAT band. So then you can also manage VAT applicable countries. Obviously, different countries have different rates of VAT, but also if a customer is using a VAT registration number, you can then have 0 rate VAT. Yetti does support that, so you have here a default list of countries, and you can toggle whether you want to allow 0 rating with a VAT registration number. You can also add a country, and the view looks exactly the same. Yetti automatically populates this list with all the countries, or at least most of the countries in the world, so you can find which country you want to apply a VAT ban to, select whether you want to allow 0 rating with VAT registration number, and then save your changes. So let's take a look at custom checkout fields then. Custom checkout fields are fields that are user-defined by yourself and that you want to appear when a user is moving through the checkout. And you can add new fields, for instance, if you would like a safe place to be added, then you can add a description. You can select what type of field it is, whether it's a text input field or a date or a yes or no. And you can also mark whether it's a required field. For instance, in the example that I've set up here, I would like to be able to give users the opportunity to notify the person who's delivering the product where I would like the item to be placed if maybe I'm out when it's being delivered. For instance, maybe in a garden, or maybe with a neighbour, or maybe in a wood store. It's not a required field, so users don't have to have a safe place, so I can just leave that and save changes. Now, when a user's going through my checkout process on my website, if they would like to add a safe place, they can do so. Finally, payment gateway setup changes the payment details that your website can add. Currently, we're only testing a website, so our processing mode is set to test. Obviously, in production, you would want your real cards to be used, so you would set this to live. I'm not going to do that for the minute, as we're still testing a website, but bear in mind that when you're using a website in a production live environment, it would be set to live. Checkout transaction type then can be set to one of 3 different options. You can set a checkout to take payment immediately. So it would be used for a fully automated basket with no action required by yourself. When a user submits their order, all payment will be taken immediately if you've selected immediate payments. Authorize does pretty much what it says on the tin. When a user submits an order, you will be notified, and before any payment is taken, you will have to authorize that order. And then deferred payment, as you would expect, allows payment to be taken after a certain amount of time. Now, there are 3 gateways that Yetti supports out of the box: SagePay, PayPal, and Credit. More will be added over time, but for the minute, Yetti supports these 3, and it's here that you can configure those gateways. If you have a SagePay account, you can enable SagePay to allow payments to be taken through this method, and you'll need your vendor name for doing so. Again, PayPal, you can enable it, have your username, your password, and your signature. All of these details you'll be able to get from your PayPal account. And then finally, you can configure a credit gateway. And you can also configure who is eligible to use a credit gateway. For instance, only customers may be able to use a credit gateway if they have an account with you, or you can have administrators or super administrators, depending on who you want to be eligible to use a credit gateway. You can tick as many or as few of these 3 gateways, and they will just appear on your checkout process, so users will be able to select whichever one they wish to use. And that's it. This video has been slightly longer than normal, as there are a lot of settings to get through, but hopefully now you'll be able to understand how you can use each setting to configure your website.